Hello, welcome to Refine the Machine. I'm Lo, and today I just want to go a little further on the truth thing. So yesterday in the video, I spoke about truth. You know how truth can be the key to self improvement. Being honest with yourself and others around you can help you to improve. And I wanted to go a little further because in that video, I was talking about addiction. Now, addiction is a complicated thing because we use it initially to help. Initially, it's a coping mechanism that helps us. But then at some point, it becomes negative. Like smoking, like I was addicted to smoking cigarettes and drinking at one point, but smoking cigarettes was more recently. And through that, I've realized that I was using it to help with stress relief. The nicotine helped me to focus. These things can help us at first. So I'm relieving my stress. I can focus. I can take a break from what I'm doing, relax, and rewind and kind of regather myself. But then over time, it starts controlling you and it started making me I don't know. It's like I just wanted to do it, even though it wasn't giving me that benefit anymore. So what I started doing was at first, like I said, it was a hard thing, and I wanted to quit, and I told people I wanted to quit, and I told my best friend Heavy, like, yo, man, I need to quit, and he helped me because he just confronted me with the truth. So initially, when I wanted to do that, instead of just saying it, then I wrote it down. So what I think can help anyone if you're trying to quit anything would be to first write it down. Like write down what it is, the reason you're doing it. And most addictions are because of that. Like the most common addictions nowadays. And I mean, this is gonna get a little, um, I guess, a little confronting because it's gonna be real. So the most common addictions right now are nicotine, alcohol, sugar, food in general. Like people use food to soothe, weed, and workaholism, like using work as a way to stay away or a way to stay so busy that you don't have to think about anything else. And I know this is all very, like I said, this is all very complicated because addiction at first is a useful thing, but it can become very problematic. Like even things like fitness, like working out can be an addiction. You could do working out too much and hurt yourself. So I just want to give an example of the list I started because I feel like this could help anyone. If you simply have something that's been bothering you, if you're having trouble breathing, or if you're having trouble focusing, or if you're having anxiety issues or things like that, just understand that when we're medicating ourselves through our addiction, the pendulum's going to swing one way for a little bit. So we'll get, if we're avoiding pleasure or pain, we'll get pleasure for a little bit. But eventually that pendulum swings right back. And the more often you do it and the longer you do it, the harder the swing is. So the shorter time the pleasure exists and the longer the pain will exist. It's a big swing and it keeps going back and forth and back and forth. So here's the list that I created. And this is a copy of a list that I made in my notebook that I wasn't able to find right now. But I just want to show you like what I did to help me. So first I listed the addiction, which is smoking cigarettes right here. Then the pros, because we do things for a reason. It's not that we don't do them for no reason. So then you have like stress relief and the buzz you get, and it's social because other people who smoke, you can come together and smoke together. And it's a break, you know, you take a break from things. And it allows you to focus. The chemical nicotine helps you to focus. And I'm a reader and I'm a learner, and it helped me so much. But then the cons. So the cons are my lungs weren't working that good. I already had asthma and it was just killing me. Um, it was it messes with your teeth and your gums, and this applies also to weed smoke. So don't think that weed is innocuous and it doesn't harm you because it can. If you look at your gums and your teeth, smoking anything for a long duration of time starts to affect your teeth and your gums and your breath, and it'll be harder to keep your breath fresh or in your lungs. You'll notice if you try to run, you got to test yourself because you don't know if this is true or not. And then it started to make me weaker because I wasn't able to work out as hard as I was able to before I started smoking. Then I couldn't sleep because I couldn't breathe. I was waking up 3, 4 hours. I wasn't getting enough sleep because I couldn't sleep. I was gaining weight because I couldn't work out. I was losing myself. It was killing me because of all of that. Um, and it was not fulfilling anymore. It wasn't doing what it used to do as far as giving me pleasure and helping me. So these things can, in a way, it first starts helping, but then it starts hurting tremendously, and then it started controlling me. I was having trouble not doing it, and that was the tipping point where when I was confronted, it was like, oh, okay, this is something. And then on the end of it, I just have alternatives, breathing exercises. During this time, I found a Wim Hof breathing method. I started breathing more. I started. I got to read this one. I started chewing gum because chewing gum helped me to keep me occupied. Because sometimes I realized I was only smoking because I was just trying to keep myself occupied. So I would smoke. And because I was now quitting, in the active process of quitting, I was working out. And then I would, if I had trouble and I had a temptation, I would just call or text a friend, just let them know, hey, I'm having trouble right now. Could you talk to me? Help me out. We all need that partner. We need that person that we can rely on. And then stretching, like just little things to interrupt the time and to make me not think about doing what I was thinking about doing. So if you could replace um, one of these what becomes a bad addiction, because in moderation, I think everything is useful, but I think it's hard for some people to moderate certain things. Like for me, smoking nicotine is like a slippery slope, because once I start, I don't think I would be able to stop. I'm very good at self control, I think, but I don't think it's one of those things that I could control. And I know for some other people it could be alcohol, for some other people it could be weed. So I think one of the best things to do is to simply start the practice of controlling yourself. Whether you could quit for a day or two, just give yourself that control and going, okay, I can step away for a day or two. Now, if you can't step away for a day or two, then you have to realize that you are now dependent on that thing. It has changed your brain chemistry, it has changed the way you work, and it can change the way that you feel towards life itself. So that's what started hurting me, was I realized that nicotine, although regulating my anxiety and stress, when I didn't have it, I was a very anxious and stressed person. I was explosive. I had these bursts of anger. And I'm not blaming the nicotine itself, but I was self-medicating this thing, so I never really dealt with it. So we have to think about that. What are we actually dealing with when we're numbing it? When we're not feeling what we need to feel? And like I said, that's why this can ruffle some feathers and make you feel weird, because it is a weird thing, and we can do that through food, and we can do that through smoking, we could do that through drinking, we could do that through working, we could do that just through being uh, not present in the moment by scrolling through our phones. These things are taking things away from us and not allowing us to actually learn how to regulate ourselves. So that's why I think it's important to start working through these things and practicing some self control. Now, through time, I've been able to quit not only cigarettes, but I did taper off using nicotine pouches. Then those became addictive to me, and then I quit those because I don't want to be controlled by anything. I don't think anyone wants to be controlled by anything, and I don't think anyone likes to do things that aren't fulfilling to them. And over time, things become less fulfilling, and they actually stand in the way between you and your dreams and your goals. Like if I couldn't breathe, I wouldn't be able to work out like I work out. If I couldn't breathe, I wouldn't be able to run how I run and play basketball how I play basketball. I wouldn't be able to throw the football with my nephew. I wouldn't be able to hang out with my son. And this has become so important to me. You have to find the why. Why do you want to quit? Because this will drag you through everything. If you want to be healthy for your son, then do that. If you want to be healthy for your kids or your nephews or your nieces or for your friends, do that. Because this would pull you through. And we all need some help sometimes, and we all need to talk to people. And like I said, that's why I'm talking about this right after the truth, because I have to be true with you. I've struggled with it my whole life. Addiction has been a part of my life since I was a kid. I've grown up around people who are addicts. Um, my dad was an addict. He was addicted to heroin. He told me straight out when I was like 14. He told me, "Hey, I know you're gonna experiment and you're gonna try things, but never do dope. Never do anything with dope in it, opium, no pills. Don't touch it." He's like, "It's the best and worst thing you ever do in your life." And right there, it clicked for me, because I was like, "Okay, he's telling me there's a good part about it, but he's also being honest and saying how bad it is, you know? So he's telling me both sides of it. Whereas some programs will tell you, just don't do it, it's all bad. It's like, no, people do things for a reason. So we all have a reason for doing these, and by becoming aware of it, you can really look at what's going on. Now, the next thing, I just like I said, it's about the reason why. And then you have to really start delving into why you actually use what you're using or abuse what you're abusing. And like I said, in moderation, things are okay. But I feel like some people, for certain substances, have trouble moderating. And that could be an action or a behavior or even a substance. Like we can get so involved in it that we start losing track of everything. So if it's having the negative effect of you losing your family, of you losing your friends, of you losing your values, of you losing your health, of you losing things that you used to care about, but now you don't care about it anymore. You got to think about these things like really deeply. And that's why being truthful is important. And like I said, the further you go into this, the further you realize like maybe all we're doing is trying to avoid the pain of dealing with the emotions that we haven't dealt with. And that was the ultimate revelation for me when I became a father, because I realized that in having a son, he was a mirror to me. And in watching him imitate me, I was becoming more aware of where I was falling short as far as my emotional regulation and my actions and my behaviors and how I was acting. And that really opened up a whole nother realm to me. And like I said, it's painful and it takes time. It took me months after he was born to quit, because I was also dealing with the death of my father, and I was dealing with the death of my friendships, and I was dealing with the grief associated with that, and the sadness and the anger and the frustration and all these emotions that came from it. So this is just being honest. And I don't want you to think like I'm some fucking perfect. I'm not perfect at all. I'm so flawed, as messed up. I battle all the time internally. Like I swear I could eat a whole pack of cookies if they're left in front of me, because I do struggle with self-control. But that's why I put myself through the process of purposely choosing to control myself. That's why I'm currently in a 7-week sobriety, because I choose to stop certain behaviors for a certain amount of time just to make sure I can. So May 30th is my last day, and then maybe I'll smoke a joint. But you know what? Not until then, because I need to know that I can go that long amount of time without relying on this, because I know what it does to me. It makes me lose my dreams. It messes up my sleep. Yeah, it feels great because it helps me to um regulate my soreness from working out, and it helps me to relax. And like I said, this is all use. But when you start abusing it, you go the other way. Then you're not. It's harder to relax, and it's harder to sleep, and it's harder to feel anything, because now you've been using something to a drastic amount. And like I said, right now I recreationally use things. When I try, once I feel myself starting to abuse it, then I take the time and the initiative to stop. And I know a lot of people look at me like I'm crazy, but that's okay, because I think it's just my way of dealing with what I need to deal with. Because I feel like if I didn't do that, I'm very liable to go down the other path and to go very deep. And if I'm not taking control, and that's why things like fasting are important, because you realize what you need and what you don't need. And sometimes you don't even need to eat. And sometimes all you need is some water, and you just need to clean out your body. And sometimes you don't need to smoke, or you need to take a break from everything every once in a while, just to make sure you can. And like I said, there's people who we can lean on and say, hey, I really want to quit this, would you be down with me? Let's do this together, because I feel like that helps initially. And then once you get that self-control, then you can just start making the rules yourself, and you can do it all alone and say, hey, I'm quitting. I'm just going to take a few weeks break, and that's it. So there's a quote by Sigmund Freud speaking of the emotion, and it's, the unexpressed emotion does not die. It is buried alive and comes back in uglier ways. And I know there's like this movement to telling men especially not to deal with their emotions. But I'm telling you right now, if you can deal with the emotions, you can deal with the physical shit, you can deal with the mental thing, you can deal with everything. Because now you're really attacking the thing at the root. And that is the truth. Once you start looking yourself in the mirror and realizing where you're weak, where you're strong, and start working on those things over time, and it takes a lot of time, it's not going to happen overnight, but over time you start building yourself into a character. You have values, you have virtues, you have behaviors that show your actions all the time. So that was another thing I missed yesterday with the truth. It's not about the material things. The material things are a result of the values and the principles that you're living by now. So if you don't tolerate a certain behavior, cut it out. Cut it out from your life, cut it out from the people around you until you can. Because there's another quote from the Bible. It's called remove temptation from the path of the righteous. Because in the beginning, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to say no to yourself. It's going to be hard to say no to that impulse to say, yo, can I get a hit? Or, yo, can I get a sip? Or, yo, let's just go get some. Or, you know what I mean? It's hard at first. So sometimes you do have to cut yourself away from people that are still doing it. And then maybe ultimately, if your values still don't align after that, then you can make harder decisions. And that's all a part of life, I think. It's a part of growth is letting go. So we have to let go to grow, and we have to let go of some of these behaviors that we've been doing for so long. There's a song, Cartoons and Cereal by Kendrick Lamar, and he's like, the dude Gunplay is a feature, and he says, if you do what you always done, then you get what you always got. And I love that quote because it's like, that's why I think I switched things up so much. And that's why I sit here before you, is because I embrace change. I embrace being different, and I embrace going through the hard to get to the other side where it's a little easier. It's never easy. It's just easier. So I think that's important. And like I said, this applies to everything. This goes for food, drugs, behaviors. Like I said, you can use a lot of things as escapes. And sometimes the best thing to do is to face things head on with people who are courageous enough to stand by your side, fellow warriors and lovers who will show support to you no matter what happens, you know? And sometimes that's the most important thing to do. And we have to deal with this pain, you know? The pain is a teacher. It really does teach you a lot about yourself, but also about other people. It teaches you that maybe the imperfectness of a person is in you as well. You know, people blame their parents for whatever. It's like, well, you're not perfect either. And you can't blame them because maybe they also were influenced by their parents, and maybe their parents were influenced by their, you know, it's like a cycle. So we just have to break that chain and think about the things that we can do in order to establish a new behavior that we think is something to look up to, or a role model of something. So you can create your own role model in yourself. And you can model yourself after people who inspire you, athletes, your parents, whoever it might be. Just latch on to something to aim towards and create an ideal for yourself, because that will help you also to pull through. And like I said, the why. The why is the reason why you're going to keep pulling. Like whether that's, like I said, for me, it's my son. Like my son, it's my why. My son, my family, my friends, I look at this as my why. I have no other reason for being than this small little thing I can see. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's like I look at the world I can see first, and then I'm starting to work outwards, which is why I'm here. So I think this is so important. And like I said, if we treat our bodies a little better, we'll be rewarded in so many ways. And like I said, if you think that this is hard to do, you're right, it's hard. It's not easy at all. But you will be rewarded by treating your body better, by treating your mind better, by getting rid of the habits of the thinking patterns. Even thinking can be an addiction. Thinking a certain way, thinking negatively can be an addiction. Once you start breaking these addictions to negative thinking, it becomes easier to do positive action, because now you are replacing the negative with a positive. So instead of just ruminating on thoughts of he said, she said, argument in your head about what you could have said 3 days ago, forget all that. Think about this. Think about what future you will be looking at you right now and thinking about you. Think about you at 80 years old, laying in your deathbed, and what you could have done differently. And I know, like I said, I keep going back to this morbid thing, but I think it's reality. Reality is I've been around people with regret in their deathbeds. Reality is I've been around people who told me they wish they were 22 again. They wish they were 30 again. They wish they were 34. I don't want anybody to be like that. I want you to, and I don't want to be like that. So that's why I aim to do further. And I think this is why dealing with these things now becomes easier. So like I said, if you make a little sheet, just write it out. You don't even have to act on it. Just write it out. Just be real honest with this sheet of paper. And if you don't know the negative side effects, look them up. Look up what the negative side effects of your behavior is. whether it's negative thinking, whether it's isolation, whether it's um, smoking, whether it's drinking, whether it's overeating, undereating. These things are all addictions, and everything has its place. But once you do it to a fault, to a detriment to yourself, then you are in an addictive pattern, and it is time to really face it and realize the source of it. So that's what I'm ultimately trying to get at. And like I said, so that's pretty much what I wanted to say, and I just wanted to bring that to light because I know a lot of people are struggling with it, and I know it's almost intangible to a lot of people. But I just want to look at the world a little wider, and I'm not telling you that you need to quit. Like I said, I just become aware of things. People say ignorance is bliss. No, ignorance is the number one killer in the world. Being ignorant of what's happening in your body and around you is the number one killer, because you don't know what the food you're eating is doing to you. You don't know what the thing you're smoking are doing to you. You don't know what the thing you're drinking is doing to you. It's robbing your body of nutrients and minerals. It's fucking up your sleep and your mental. It's causing you anxiety, stress, and depression. It's putting you in the loops of self-destructive behavior. These things are important to understand, because once you become aware of it, then you can go, oh, now I understand what is causing some of it, at least. It might not be causing all of it, but it could be causing some of it. So you hold the keys to your responsibility for yourself. But not only for yourself, but for anybody who looks up at you. Think of all those little eyes that watch you, all those people who are around you, all those people you can inspire by being the example you wanted to see when you were a kid. You got to think of this, because when we come down to it, we are trickling down our behaviors and our patterns of thought to generations and generations to come. So that's how I believe this works. But like I said, this is just a thought exercise in a story in general, because this is just how I felt I had to deal with it. Now, your path might be different. Your path could be different. And I would love to hear about what steps it takes to do it for you, because I think as a community, we all hold a little bit of the truth in ourselves. And maybe by sharing our ideas with each other, we can help each other to further ourselves beyond what we think is capable. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. So this was addiction. And like I said, this is just a complicated topic, because it's almost a necessity in a strange way, but it's also a thing that can cause us the greatest harm. So we have to look at this thing like a double-edged sword in a way. And this is really leading to one of the first things I wrote about, which was called fluid identity. And it was a way that I created to shift my identity from the introverted, shy person who was scared to look into a camera and speak into a microphone, to draw art, to write words, to do what I wanted to do, into what you see now, because this was all a part of the process. So I'm not trying to hide the process. I'm literally trying to explain it in a way that I know how. And if, like I said, I'm not perfect, and I will make a lot of mistakes, but I'm committed to imperfect action and to showing the truth of myself. Because if I don't do this, I don't know. In some ways, if I don't do this, I'm not doing what I'm being called to do. So I have this whisper in my soul, a whisper in my body that goes, hey, you know what you should be doing. You know what you need to start. You know what you need to quit. Why aren't you doing it? And that's the thing that eats at me. That's the thing that stops me from doing dumb shit. That's the thing that starts me on doing dumb shit. Because ultimately, when you start anything, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard. You're not going to be that good at it. But then over time, over refinement, consistently, you will become better. So that's my belief for you, and I wish you all the best of luck. And if you ever need to reach out, I will literally put down a phone number and an email address, so you can reach out personally. If you want to comment, we could do that. I truly just want people to be able to realize what is going on. And what is going on is that we really need as a society to start working on our mental health as well as our physical health. And they go hand in hand, as well as our spiritual health. We can't ignore any of these processes, because once we do, we're becoming disconnected from the thing that makes you, you. So until next time, make sure you refine, like, comment, subscribe. I love you guys. Peace out.